I was thinking ahead because I started doing my taxes today. And, it's just always such a nightmare. It doesn't seem to get in less of a nightmare. But I've had some weird tax stuff. I had a big capital gain last year. One-time capital gain. Now, got a bunch of BS. Let's see, that was Daniel Delgado and Matthias. Jim puts down L's for you guys being late. I'm not gonna rat you off like that.
I usually comment around like, 'cause we don't really talk about like school.
Yeah,
So, like-
well, you know what? Come on time. Don't give me some lame excuse if we don't talk about school. Just come on time. The class starts at 6. If you're able to come on time, please come on time. I may want to talk about stuff besides school for the whole thing. That would be my prerogative to do that. And if you wanted to just wait around outside and not get counted here while I was doing that, you don't want to do that, right? No, you just want to be here. 6 o'clock is when the class starts. And I'll just preface with, I'm in not that good a mood. I'm gonna try to snap out of it. I'm not in that good a mood. I was explaining because I was doing my taxes. That's just kind of completely flipped. Alec, did you show up? Alexandria? Emmett? Tyler? So, more than anything, coming late is disruptive to the class and me, regardless of what we're talking about. So the class starts at 6, which means you should be here before 6, right? You pay to go here, unless you're in the promises. If you've got the promises, you don't pay to go here, but you go through a lot of trouble to come here. I get paid to come here, and I also go through a lot of trouble to come here. So I would like it would be very respectful if, like most everybody, including me, just show up on time. All the time. If you can do it.
I'll try, Rodney.
And try not to be a big suck ass. Like you. But you're not. But sometimes it pays. All right, so no Emma, no Alexander, no Alec. No Alexander. We're going to talk about plumbing today. Hopefully everybody read chapter 31 in the 12th edition. If you happen to get the 13th edition, it's chapter 32. That was in your syllabus for this week, was for you to read that chapter. And we're going to go over it, but as well as some other stuff about plumbing. Okay. Try to clean this up a little bit today and get the Zoom recordings that I have on Canvas. Here we are at week 5. Plumbing systems. Safety meeting is called Dealing with Stress from Home. Do you have the switch it like this?
Yeah.
One of the two. Dealing with stress from home. I'll read the first paragraph. Our home life often overlaps with our work and vice versa, both in good ways and in bad ways. Stressors at home can begin to pile up and affect our work. Carefully. While some stress is so great that the worker experiencing it should not be at work, most stress can be handled in such a way that it does not create a hazardous situation. Evan?
Common stressors relating to home life. There are many different stressors in each of our lives at any given time. It is important to recognize types of common stressors and if they could be affecting you at work. Some common types of stressors include health. Many people are dealing with health issues, whether it is themselves or a loved one. A serious health scare can be one of the most trying situations we ever have to deal with in life. Finances, lack of money, or excessive bills can weigh heavy on a person. Relationships, fighting or arguing with a loved one can create a stressful situation for an individual long after the discussion is had. Fill in the blank. While the above three mentioned stressors are common for many people, literally anything can be a stressor for an individual. We're all unique and different, living different lives. What causes stress for each of us varies greatly.
Yes.
How stress affects work. There are many negative effects when someone carries into stress from home to work. A couple of examples include one, lack of focus. Dealing with any of the above stressors is obviously going to come with a mental load. Constantly giving thought to a stressful situation takes your mind off the task at hand. Two, the number on work relationships. Stress can cause a person to shut down or become angry towards those around them. The situation negatively affects communication between workers and the cohesiveness of the work group as a whole. Lack of communication or teamwork can lead to injury.
And then how to deal with stress. Yes, Jose? Jose, sorry.
There is no one size fits all solution for dealing with stress from a situation at home. As mentioned above, everyone is different and how we each deal with stress will vary. Some quick ideas. Recognize what is truly bothering you. From there, it is less difficult to attempt to find solutions in dealing with it. Also, recognize the stressors can help you separate your anger towards a situation or person at home from those around you at work. Take action to mitigate or eliminate the stressors. Not all stressors can be eliminated, but our reaction to them and how we face stressors can be improved. Have a conversation with a loved one, friend, or a coworker about the issue. Many times our minds are our own worst enemies. Have hobbies or other ways to relax. Everyone needs a mental break from work and any stress caused at home.
And in summary, this was just a brief discussion on the stressors our home life can cause and how it affects work. Dealing with the mentioned issues is not easy, however, it's important to recognize their existence and not affection of larger scale. If your mind is not in the game, have a look. Have a discussion with the supervisor. If needed, take a day off and come into work and help you with your mind. Which is great advice. These are real stressors, health, finances, relationships, and fill in the blanks. People get stressed over road rage, happened with a car, they lost their phone. The list goes on. I mean, we can just make a list and just keep going. The stuff that can potentially stress someone out and has virtually little and nothing to do with work. So you're going to come to work stressed out with normal stressors in everyday life. You know, some can get some of the super minor and some can be really, really bad. You're the one, you're the only one that can determine if those stressors are serious or severe enough for you to take off work. And unfortunately for everybody, you know, working is usually about making money. Most people are lax to take time off because they generally don't get paid unless you've got good employer with sick leave and stuff like that. Construction is kind of notorious about not having stuff like that, and 401ks and sick leave and paid vacations and all that stuff. But in our companies are getting more and more professional. There are more and more professional construction companies out there that do offer all this stuff. So you're the only one that knows if you're so stressed out that you're having trouble at work and it's really affecting your work. And hopefully you're aware enough to notice before something really bad happens, before you have an accident, because your concentration is so intense, or before you lose your temper and get into a fight with a coworker because you're PO'd at your girlfriend, wife, live-in lover, fill in the blank, or with your friend, or with your kids. All that stuff. Just so much stuff out there that stress people out, all of us out. That's amazing how we even function. But really, ultimately, I'll leave you with this. It all works out in the end. And if it's not working out, it's just not the end. Okay, plumbing. So, who knows anything about plumbing? Lou knows something about plumbing. Who else? Tell me your first name again.
Alex.
Alex and Alex.
Yeah.
And then so the chairs, okay, so Alex knows something about plumbing. Anybody else? About plumbing? So I'm assuming that Lewis and Alex know something about plumbing in terms of what I talked about the other day, wastewater vent and plumbing systems.
The 4 rules of plumbing.
And 4 rules, right? And understand what those are, and that the rest of you understand what you understand about plumbing is that when you push that little jiggly handle on the side of the WC, stands for water closet, some of you know that's a toilet, that it flushes, the water goes away, and whatever's in the wall goes away. And then when you turn the faucets on, the water does come out hot on the left, cold on the right. Right? And turn gas on somewhere, it lights up. Those are all part of your plumbing systems too.
Question about that, what you just said. So this chapter, it doesn't have anything about gas, but plumbers deal with gas. I was a little confused.
Oh, it doesn't,
about
has nothing to do with gas?
that. I just looked through it again and there's there's nothing about installing gas lines or anything like that, which I was a little confused about.
Well, no, Jim deals with it in his lab, but we are going to talk about it. Yes.
Okay.
I wasn't even into that. Let's see what reason this.
Black pipe. Like gas pipe.
Yeah. In this chapter.
Yeah.
So there's nothing in gas. And let's I just wonder if there's something under natural gas. Nothing under nothing under natural gas. Nothing under gas. So
Maybe it's just something the book overlooked.
yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. Between Jim and I, though, we know enough about gas pipe to get some good information. Yes, the plumbing systems are the mechanical systems in the house have to do with plumbing fixtures. And generally, plumbing fixtures don't have gas to them. The only thing you're going to have gas to plumbing-wise in terms of what you even call a plumbing fixture would be better off, more accurate to call it appliance, would be a dryer, gas dryer. Anybody think of anything else that would have forced air unit? But that's HVAC. That's a separate sub-trade, sort of separate division of the mechanical system.
Water heater.
And water heater, which is definitely the plumber's bailiwick. That's gas. And what else? What else has gas to it? Stove has gas to it. Not so much ovens anymore. Most ovens are electric, standalone ovens, although you can still get gas ovens. So Gas can run to an oven,
Gas fireplace.
gas fireplaces, fireplace logs, log lighters, and gas fireplace inserts, gas heaters, gas wall heaters, gas heating of all sorts, natural gas, which, by the way, is wants to be phased out by the powers that be right now. We want to go all electric. We want to electric is a cleaner form of energy, except in some of the generation, and we're working on that global wide scale. But back to gas. Gas is a plumber's bailiwick. Plumber runs the gas, and they look for the symbol on a plan called FG. What does that mean? Nobody? FG, F period, G period, means fuel gas. So on a good plan, you should see, I can't remember what the icon is, but it should be an FG and maybe a little plus coming on the wall when there's fuel gas. You could have a fuel gas stub for forced air, fuel gas stub for your unit, for your dryer. What definitely your water heater. Now the thing about gas, it's generally used for heating. I'm trying to think if it's used for anything besides heating.
In horticulture, we use it for CO2 burners in like greenhouses and stuff like
It's
that.
still heating, right?
I guess you could call it a heater.
I mean, you're igniting the gas.
Yeah, you're igniting it and produces
And
CO2.
by igniting the gas, you're creating energy and you're creating heat.
Do you think they're gonna get rid of it for commercial purposes like that too? Because that's gonna be really bad. If they
No.
do.
It'll go back and forth, and it'll be phasing for a while as they expect to be developing better and more efficient ways of generating electricity. Because right now, it's a bit suspect to me. I mean, solar generated electricity is very clean. And how green is it? What goes into making solar panels? What's the materials that are mined? What are the materials? How are they gotten? How green is how they're gotten and how they're gotten through the processing phase? And then what about battery storage? Because this whole electricity being made by the sun is only powered when the sun's out. If the sun's not out, it needs to be stored, and it has to be stored in batteries. And then the rare earth and the stuff, that's a whole big thing. It's like, how green are the batteries? Because lead acid batteries are not. They're very, very bad. They're there for a long time. So there's all kinds of stuff. This is the forefront of what's happening right now in construction and the whole energy sector, which affects construction big time. It's changing as we speak, and lots of stuff happening. So gas is a plumber's bailiwick, and gas used to be run. Now that we're on gas, gas used to be run in galvanized pipe. Used to be running black pipe and galvanized, and then now galvanized pipe. Black pipe, mostly black pipe. I take it back. There was really no reason to use galvanized pipe. Black iron pipe. Maybe you would get a galvanized iron pipe buried outside, but now virtually all your gas, not so much in houses, inside a house, it's still typically run in black pipe. But it's run to your house and can be run in the house in a polyethylene material. It's a PVC, it's a PVE, I think that's what it is.
Is that the flex pipe?
It's yellow. It's flexible, comes in a roll, and it has a locating wire married to it. That's really important when you bury gas pipe. You need a wire married to it so you can locate it electrically. It's very important in gases. And there are certain laws and rules that govern what you can do with gas. Like your gas trench needs to be 18 inches deep, so that deep. It has to be a minimum of 18 inches of cover. Or is it 30?
I think it's
Water's 18.
I think it's 3 feet.
Water's 18 and gas is 30. And electrical is 3 feet, 36. But it also can't be buried under your house. It can't be, and even if it's underground, right, and it's running underground to your house, and as it runs from meter to your house and it comes over, it goes over a roof, like you have a patio roof, then it can't do that. Technically, it's supposed to surface and run above ground. And if it stays underground, you have to put in a sleeve, run the gas pipe in a sleeve, and you have to vent a sleeve. Part of the codes apply to gas. Gas is kind of tricky stuff. And in some ways, it's amazing stuff. I've watched gas company guys weld live gas pipe. Welded with an oxyacetylene welding torch, just sparks all over the place. You understand why it's not explosive, right? Gas under pressure, and gas is under pressure. As it flows through those pipes, I don't know what the PSI is, but it's under pressure. So if you hold a match up to a gas pipe, it'll blow the match up. And that's all it'll ever do. Matches, lighters, whatever you hold up to that gas pipe, with it blowing gas out under pressure, it'll blow it out. Gas becomes explosive in the proper mixture with air. There's a gas and air mixed to the right proportions, and then a spark ignites, and then you have an very explosive, not just flammable, you have an explosive situation. So gas is dangerous, inherently dangerous. So they're really careful about gas, about locating gas, about gas tests, and any gas pipe run should be inspected. And when it is inspected, it's inspected where it's capped at one end, or I'm sorry, it would be live and turned on at one end, and at the other end it would be have a pressure gauge in it. So I'm sorry, not live at all. You got to cap one end, show that it's capped, and then a pressure gauge on the other end. So you have a closed system, and you pump it up with air, and then it's got to stay the same pressure overnight. Can't lose any pressure overnight. Come back. And if it has, then you got to find that gas leak. And the best way to find it is with soap and brush. Soap all your connections. So gas is run very carefully. It's usually run in the walls, but typically up in attics and crawl spaces underneath houses, and then stubs up into the various locations that it goes. The latest thing in water heating is on-demand water heaters. On demand. Who knows? Who can explain what an on-demand water heater is?
Is that the same thing as tankless or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
On-demands are tankless. So a typical gas, a typical water heater that we know them is a vessel. As low as 5 gallon, typical, or 30 and 40 gallon and 50 gallon. And you get much bigger than 50, you get 75 and 100 gallons. After 100, they could become boilers, not water heaters, but they are vessel types that are filled with water and a ring of gas-fired burners below them that heats the. The vessel is metal and it's conductive, and so it heats up, and the gas heats up the water, and the water's hot. And you have recirc pumps that recirculate that hot water, so you don't have to turn on the hot water when you're upstairs and your water heaters in your basement. You have to wait like literally 1 or 2 minutes. That does not happen with recirc pumps, but it doesn't happen with on-demand or tankless water heaters too, because the water is heated when it's needed. So on demand. Tagagi and Rinnai are the two big suppliers and manufacturers of the on-demand water heaters that are in use today in the United States. Tagagi and Rinnai, and they are pretty interesting devices. And you're gonna see a lot of this in these videos I'm gonna show you. There's 7 videos. Some of them are very short. some are 16 minutes. And by the way, these videos that I've taken a year or two ago are got broke up because I use the highest resolution. And the highest resolution, we only do like 16 minutes of whack. And then you have to, it rolls over to another video. But on demand water heaters, one decides what they do, but they don't have a tank, right? They're tankless. The water's flash heated as needed. They have a need. Probably the most salient feature about them when you contemplate getting them. So in other words, you water your house, right? You know what gallon it is?
I think it's a boiler.
Really, a huge one? Like, where do you live?
Oh, at my old house, in Montego.
What about, where do you live now?
I have no idea.
Okay, let's just say it's a 30 gallon.
Alright.
Do you think you could replace it with a tankless? Like, just take it out and put a tankless on the wall. I mean, does anybody think that they could take their water heater out and just hang a tankless on the wall? You know, and plumb to it. Why do you think they could do that? Because you can't. It's a trick question. You cannot do that. And the reason why you can't do that is because what's servicing your gas water heater right now, your vessel type water heater, is 1/2 inch to 3/4 gas pipe. And your on demand takes 1 1/4 minimum diameter gas pipe.
What was the tank water heater size that you said?
Well, 1/2 inch to 3/4.
Happens to be
Probably most of them are 3/4, and you take at least 1 1/2 to 1 1/4 is the minimum. So the volume of gas that a on-demand heater takes is like 2 or 3 times more than a vessel. So you almost always have to upsize your gas service to get a tankless water. So they're not just like, oh, well, let's just put one in. It's great. We have hot water like right now. And you're not, and it's argued that they are energy efficient, and I reckon they are energy efficient because you're not heating water that you're not using. So your water heater overnight, if you're not turning it on and using the hot water that's in that tank and having it reheated to get into to heat more, you're just heating water. As it cools to a certain temperature, it just reheats. The burners come on, keeps it on.
I've heard that those on-demand ones aren't they don't work as well as the tank kind.
When you say don't work as well, you gotta qualify.
They don't heat the water as well, or I don't know, as efficiently or as quickly, or I don't know. I've never used one, but that's
Well,
what
they're
I've kind of
on
heard.
demand, so
Right,
when you turn on the hot tap, you should have hot water.
right. Okay.
And as to whether it takes a little while to get to scalding hot, if that's the way you want it, or if it comes out scalding hot, I don't know that either.
Right.
But I suspect that the down might be that in terms of energy efficiency, they may not be that energy efficient because they take so much gas.
Or do you think that they maybe don't stay hot as long, like if you have the hot water running or something?
Don't know.
Yeah.
No, we can ask and find out. I don't think Jay will tell us in this, but Jay will talk about that. Let's see his video. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I know enough about them to talk about them, but I don't know enough about how it wouldn't be hard to find out how efficient the energy is.
Maybe the technology's gotten better for you or something.
Yes, I think it has, Daniel.
So at my job, it's like a dry cleaner. So we have this like huge, like, I don't even know, it's like a huge boiler.
Yeah.
So essentially I was just wondering, like, is that essentially just like a bigger, that's the same type of
A
mechanism?
boiler is just a big water heater.
Yeah.
It's got a vessel. It's just got more gallons. And, more gas, more ability to heat, to make more heat, so more BTUs. One thing I was gonna say, the one kind of cool thing about on-demand heaters is they're generally the nice and cigars I'm thinking of, we just installed, they're 90% efficiency. So with heating, if you go with 90% efficiency rigs, they cost more, like forced air units, pretty sure the on-demands are 90% efficiency, but they don't have flues. So in a water heater, a vessel type water heater, 34-gallon water heater, when your flue has to penetrate the roof, it has to leave the building, it has to go above the roof. And it has to leave the building in a triple wall, triple insulated collar. It can't touch anything, and it's got to have this column on it, right? So you're dealing with very hot expended gases. And at 90% efficiency, you vent that with PVC. So it's like 100 degrees. So it's way more efficient. The expended gases don't come out so hot. So you can just plumb with PVC. You can sidewall, you can do all kinds of stuff that you can't do when you're dealing with the flue. So let's get into J. Yeah, I thought rather than do the PowerPoint, let's go through, because it's pretty informative. And what J is, J Allen, JA stands for J Allen. And J Allen is a friend of mine. I didn't have him mic'd up. The sound's going to be weird, so I'll try my best. I hope it won't be too bad for it. But Jay's a long time friend of mine. I designed and built his kitchen several years ago. I love his kitchen. He's worked for Peter Kornbluth Construction Plumbing for 20 plus. Well, let's see. Jay was working for him when I met him in 1981 or 82. That's 40 years. Anyway, he runs the work for construction plumbing. He's about to retire. He hasn't retired already. He'll tell you a little bit about his background, but he's a savvy plumber, works for a great company. He's going to tell us about this job that he did. All new plumber, including an on-demand heater.
Morning, and we're on the man job. In front of us is Jay Allen. So Jay Allen works for construction plumbing and has for how long?
35 years.
35 years. And hopefully we're all hitting these 4x4 or 5x5 sound wise. So 35 years of construction plumbing. Could you just tell us a little bit about how you got into it, what you did, what you do?
I think I did like him.
Yeah, well,
The batteries
my
were-
name's Jay Allen. I work for Construction Plumbing. We've been in business since 1983, and I've been with the company since 1986. From 1978 to 1985, I was in the solar energy business here in Santa Barbara. And at the end of 1985, the Reagan administration had cut the federal tax credits and state tax credits for solar energy, and the business all across the United States just completely fell apart. And so I began looking for a job in 1986, and I found an ad in the local newspaper here in Santa Barbara to apply for a job as a plumber. And so I did, and I was hired. And for the first 12 years with construction plumbing, I worked as a plumber out in the field. For the last 23 years, I have been production manager. And so that's where I'm at. It's hard to believe I'm even saying that I've been for 35 years.
I remember when you were
A long time.
remember that our yard in Quarantino,
Yeah, playing basketball.
playing basketball and shooting cars with water balloons.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So
You guys ever heard of a crabgrass blower? 9-inch balloons filled with water, no air. That's about that big. 3/8 ID, eighth wall surgical tubing, 15 feet of it. One hand wrapped around the right hand of someone, and one hand wrapped around the left hand, making a slingshot. Me in the middle, and that 9-inch balloon twisted in half, draped over the balloon, stretched back about literally 25, 30 feet, and let go. And I'm telling you, man, get some. You can picture the parking garage on top of the Fiesta 5 theaters on State Street, and then Thrifties down the street on the opposite side of the street. From that parking garage over the intersection, all the way down to the awning in front of Thrifties. That's the range of it. Really fun. And then I had this shop where, well, you know where Marburg's huge facility is now? When you come into town, you look down, it's Marburg. That was my shop. So construction, plumbing, RG foil landscaping, and me at construction, we had that, we leased that whole, that whole tract of land there. There was a big building on it. That's where my shop was. And I had 30-inch high letters that said UT Construction Inc. No, it said UT Construction Company, red letters, big red letters on white background, 30 inches tall. And when you got elevated on the freeway coming into Santa Barbara and you looked down, you saw my name. I mean, so the name recognition was unbelievable. It was like, yeah, I've heard that name somewhere, because you've seen it, right? And we had these giant, like 12-foot tall sliding doors, pair of them for the shop. And we could take those doors, right? And they were about this open, about maybe a foot open. The shop is big enough to get way back there and just fire balloons out to the freeway. And we wouldn't do it with cars, like going. We would do, because there was also 4 stoplights. Right, there was 4 stoplights heading on the freeway, heading north and south. So there was just a line. There was always a line of cars. There was very rarely during the day cars. Right, because we've never taken a chance of hitting a moving car. Just stopped cars. Oh man, we because you had no idea. It's so far away. All of a sudden, blam! You're just getting slammed. The water balloons. You can't tell. It just is. You look around. There's nothing to see. So much fun. And that sign, I was in Hawaii with my wife. I don't know when. It was April Fool's. So it was like the 4th or 5th of April. I called. I had a secretary named Tammy at the time, and she said, "Oh man," she said, "there was this weird thing happening on April 1st." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Your sign got defaced." Well, what? It got changed to butt suction. It said, yeah, UT Construction Company got changed to butt suction company. And dude, I was livid. I could laugh about it now. And about 2 or 3 years later, looking through somebody's scrapbook, a friend of my scrapbook, I saw a picture of it. And I just looked at the trucks were there, and so the culprits were totally busted by the trucks in that picture. And I did not think it was funny at the time, but my cousin made me a card. One of my cousins made me a card. I told that story a few months later, and she made me a card that said "Butt Suction Company, the utmost in suction."
So you went to Florida.
That's right.
Learn to trade on the job.
That's right. No, on the job training. I learned from guys who had been in the company for a while who taught me.
So you went to work as basically, I'm gonna assume you went to work as a laborer, plumber's laborer.
Well, actually, I started doing copper right away because I had been soldering copper for 8 years in the solar business. So Peter knew that I could solder copper after he looked at my work for a couple of days. So all I did for the first 2 or 3 years was solder copper, and I had the greenest hands. I could never get the flux off of my hands. I was the copper guy for about 3 years.
Which I want to circle back to this.
Mhm.
Start looking at the plumbing, but I want to talk a little bit about solder copper versus
It is Propex. We don't use Propex. I have no Propex tools. I don't. Well, I'll take that back. We use PEX tubing for drinking water supply only.
It's not the Propex. That's the wrong. It's the one that instead of soldering.
Right, you crimp it together.
Is that called Propex?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
So, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Is it Propex? Because
yeah, I think so.
so you know what PEX is? PEX is tubing with fittings versus we run water with copper. Copper has fittings. Copper comes in 10 20-foot sticks, and elbow and half pins, but they all have to be soldered. Copper has to be soldered. It's the preferred way of doing water. a really quick way of doing copper fittings, not soldering. It's this thing, it's not called Propex. It could be
Like
called-
clamping?
Yeah, it's like this heated clamp that you.
Well, it's not heated.
It's
The
not
fittings are very expensive. They have O-rings in them. And there's a tool, and for every size pipe, you have the jaws fit around it. You hit it, and
Yeah, we had one at my old job when we built fountains, water
Yeah.
fountains.
yeah, they're really quick. So the time it takes to clean solder, clean the copper pipe, clean the inside of your fitting, wipe it clean, put solder flux around it, fitting together, and then solder it with a torch. And if you're good, solder, and then clean your solder joint versus put your fitting on and press the button.
Isn't it heated though? Because the tool you have to plug in to the wall and it heats up, right?
No, it's
there's no
like
heat.
a.
There's no heat. The electricity is just for the jaws.
like
It's just the
that.
crimping. There's no heat whatsoever.
Huh.
And there's battery operated ones now. They're very expensive. They're $1,500 just to start, up to 4,000. They're really great for large commercial copper pipe. Big pipe, because big pipe is very hard to solder to keep it hot. It takes a real art to solder big pipe to get that solder joint to go all the way around and clean. So they're really they're big in commercial jobs, and the fittings are more, but the time is less. And the old school plumbers don't like them. They're in a soldering, solder joint. They just don't trust that crimp. And I personally think it's just the greatest thing since sliced bread. If I was a plumber, I'd be using it in a minute. It's
Yeah,
Pro
it's-
Press.
Well,
Pro
it's,
Press.
it's a material that we don't use. We
You guys do not.
do not use it. No, we do not. We solder all our copper.
So, 'cause we're gonna talk about sorry, these things, it's not programs.
Yeah.
She's been on, is here?
I don't know.
Might be gone, but, John will know. Anyway, we'll talk about that other way of putting copper pipes together. But in the meantime, so you started with some knowledge, so you were right at the bottom.
No,
And as you went, you learned the plumbing trade from the guys that do the plumbing trade.
that's right. That's right.
This is how a lot of this is pretty much.
Yeah.
Most of how I learned the trade. And then at what point did you become more than a plumber, which is what you're not really a plumber now. In your background, you know a lot about plumbing. And actually you learned as you went.
Right.
And doing jobs, stuff always comes up. Constantly learning. Nobody ever knows it all.
No, not at all. There's always stuff to learn.
What was the turning point for you out of the field?
Well, it was really Peter, the owner of the company. Peter had got to the point where he was trying to do everything himself. And as the company grew, he needed someone else to help with scheduling. And I was the guy that he chose out of the 20-some guys we had. Right. Right. Right.
Respect the employees, and it's nice that, you are a plumber, you're not just some guy.
Right.
Construction management degree out of Caltech.
Right.
Cal Poly. And don't get me wrong, that's not a bad way to go, it's just that.
Yeah.
Nothing places.
That's right. That's right. And I think I have the right temperament to deal with all the employees and the clients.
Tell us about that. Tell us about that. What's the kinds of things like today? What's it like?
Well, to like today is I field a tremendous amount of phone calls. And now with the cell phones, it's so easy to reach people. With text messaging and email as another form of communication, I have to look at all three things all the time. All the time.
And all on the phone.
All on my phone. Yeah.
Text.
Especially now with COVID, I don't go into the office anymore. So I'm doing pretty much everything on my phone or on my computer at home. Lisa goes to answers phones, but she's the only one in there except for Mike. Bob, yeah, Bob is working from home as well. Yeah.
So today, what's just kind of describe your day?
Well,
Up to now, and then what you anticipate?
well, the phone started ringing about 6:45. I got up about 6:15 and sent some material list to our materials manager in the shop, Mike, so he could get some material to the job sites for a couple of projects today.
Stop for just a second, because infrastructure, plumbing is, they have the fiscal plans. The building actually is a lot, house in front. I got it now, it's residential, it's zoning.
Yes, yeah, it's, yeah.
They have a two-story shop. Garden, offices for.
That's right.
All that stuff. So what kinds of stuff do you stock?
We stock everything that we use. It's not something that we've always done, but the last 2 years we have. It's,
Buying quantity, stock?
we buy in quantity and we stock it, and it's much more efficient for us to have the plumbers make lists for material the day before, or I make material lists a couple days before, and we have it delivered to the plumber on the shop, on the job, so that he's not standing in line at the supply house waiting for parts.
The guy make a list of it, he goes to the shop, the guy pulls it from your stock.
And delivers it to the job.
Oh, that's great. And
Yeah.
then you don't actually, smart delivery, or does he go get that?
Yeah, well, he'll pick up some things from Smarten, or sometimes we have job site deliveries. If it's a big job, we usually have it delivered directly from our supplier.
So that's pretty darn efficient, and it also allows you guys to make material houses.
That's right. That's right.
Also got to work.
Yes. What about my day? So it started off doing that. I went out to Hope Ranch at about 7:15 and laid out a couple plumbers on a new job that we're doing. I answered phone calls basically after that until I got here.
Stuff, you see laid out. Can you just explain?
Yeah, this particular job, it was just, they were doing some demolition on the outside. They're demoing the whole back patio, which was an outdoor kitchen and fire pit. And the new owners didn't like the design, so they completely were gonna rip it out. We had to safe everything off. We turned the gas off with the gas meters, and then we capped off the line in the ground so that when they come out with a backhoe and start ripping everything apart, we don't tear the gas and the water lines out of the ground. Damage. That's right. That's right.
One thing, ripping lines out.
Yeah, right. So we call that safing off a job before it's finished. That's right.
Okay, so we laid that job out.
Then I was on the phone answering more calls about, work in progress on other projects that we're working on. And I came here. From here at 12 o'clock, I have a meeting on a new job walk with Peter, the owner of the company, to do some more layout.
Brand new job.
Brand new job.
Job you guys have.
Yeah.
And then start laying out. What state is that job in?
That job is, it's actually another remodel. We did the house about 2-3 years ago. The owner sold it, some new owners came in, and now they're doing a remodel on part of the house that was never remodeled before.
Is it expensive as this?
Yeah, I'd say probably about the same. Yeah, they're adding a couple of bathrooms and a kitchen in a downstairs area.
Slab on grade?
It's slab on grade.
So this job is slab on grade. Right. Saved off at one point. And then at one point, when we were still in the dirt, still digging off the foundation, before we could even start tying steel, and really getting the forms together, we needed you guys out. To
Right.
plumbing stubs, do the stub out.
Right.
For the waste.
Yeah, yeah.
Get that stuff going. Could you explain that a little bit? How that process works?
Well, we start off with a set of plans, and first we have to determine where all the exterior and interior walls are. We have to figure out where finished floor height is.
Hopefully some help
with some help from someone running the job, some sort of a super. One of the most important things we have to do, though, is find out where the existing sewer is. And we have to find out the depth of that so that we make sure that when we're laying out our new sewer lines, that we are going to have the proper height and fall to reach the existing lateral.
So you guys all remember that, like 1/4 inch.
Yeah.
Goes down, actually goes down.
2% grade. Yeah.
But really, that's the idea, and more is okay.
A little more is okay. You try not to get much more than that because you don't want the water to pass up the solids. You want it to kind of float along.
So great.
Yeah.
Something that is germane to everyone that's listening, basically everybody on the planet's life. You know, what happens when they flush that toilet?
That's right.
And at a 1/4 inch to a foot, I thought, well, yeah, more fall would be better because you fall, you know, you have more gravity, push, running, but yeah, then the water gets added solids and. it's
Right.
not good.
And then you end up with backups.
So makes sense.
Mhm.
And then you can actually go less than a 1/4 inch at some point, right? This is get you.
Well,
eight.
if you can go 1/8 inch per foot if you absolutely have to, but then you have to increase the pipe size by 1 size.
So if you only got an 1/8 of a foot or 4 inch pipe.
Yeah. It rarely happens. Yeah. It rarely happens, but it does happen.
And that's in the sanitary waste, right?
That's right.
And so something very strange, you get 16 foot, you get whatever you can get.
Right.
Elevation given, so if you get 16 foot, the water will go that way.
That's right.
So, okay, so keep going. I forget where I stopped.
Well, we
You meet Peter, you walk on the recon, which is almost as expensive as 2 bathrooms.
Right.
I remember slab on grade.
slab on grade with a second story above.
1 second.
Sure.
Do you know what, when we say slab on grade as opposed to raised foundation? You know what we're talking about? Slab on grade versus raised foundation, which is footing walls and the buildings up. In this case, this is all slab on grade, which is a lot harder to do. Services.
Call me again. Okay. Sorry, and I didn't want to stop. I could stop. Start and stop.
It's all right. You can cut it out there.
So, see, all better.
Yeah. All right. Just like that.
Yeah, I'll tell you guys, class. I'll preface that when I show this video of what we're talking about. But in the meantime, slab on grade versus raised foundation. We talked a little bit about that. Well, first of all, what's the difference between slab on grade and a raised foundation as far as you guys go?
Well, a slab on grade is concrete, so we have to be really accurate, or else we're in there with a jackhammer later moving pipes. And so it's very important that we have all of our walls laid out properly so that we know exactly where our piping is.
Super
Very important.
they stubborn through the slab. Base pipe inspector.
8 feet. Yeah. Right. Right.
And then hopefully you layout guys now put that in the wall. If it's not on the wall, then yeah, you got to break it forward. So it's like, well, you guys hit wall?
If you have room. Every now and then, we get lucky.
So, but then when you
Well, it used to be that we would want to get our piping in a raised floor before the floor was sheeted.
Right.
So that we didn't have to
you
crawl.
want to get at least a sleeve of pipes through the forms
Yes,
to get out to sewer.
right.
Right. So
Right.
so you probably get your substitute forms and then once they pour, then you can form all your waste and bits based on.
Gonna take a break. Rough in, top out, set finish. That's the 3 phases. Rough in, top out, set finish. Rough in's all the dirt work. Top out's getting it up in the walls, up through the walls, up through the floor. And then set finishes after the floors are done, the countertops around, faucets, and water closets. And all that stuff. So take a break and come back in 15 after. Yes.
What all was he doing on that job?
You're gonna see it. Walking through it. I didn't realize I said that. Somebody's gonna help me remember to fire back up the recording, okay? Somebody help me. Okay, who remembers the 4 agreements?
Always be impeccable with your word. Personally.
Okay, be impeccable with your word.
Don't take things too personally.
Don't take anything personally. Okay, what's the third one?
Don't make any assumptions.
Don't make any assumptions, and what's the 4th one?
Do the best you can.
That's what you can. Okay, so the second agreement is don't take anything personally. Just to read a couple of paragraphs at the beginning. The next 3 agreements are really born from the first agreement. The second agreement is don't take anything personally. Whatever happens around you, don't take it personally. Using an earlier example, if I see you on the street and I say, hey, you are so stupid, without knowing you, it's not about you, it's about me. If you take it personally, then perhaps you believe you're stupid. Maybe you think to yourself, how does he know? Is he clairvoyant, or can everybody see how stupid I am? You take it personally because you agree with whatever is said. As soon as you agree, poison goes through you and you are trapped in the dream of hell. What causes you to be trapped is what we call personal importance. Personal importance, or taking things personally, is the maximum expression of selfishness because we make the assumption that everything is about me. During the period of our education or domestication, we learn to take everything personally. We think we are responsible for everything. Me, always. Nothing other people do is because of you. It's because of themselves. That's such a great concept. Nothing other people do is because of you. It's because of themselves. All people live in their own dream, in their own mind. They're in a completely different world from the one we live in. When we take something personally, we make the assumption that they know what is in our world, and we try to impose our world on their world. And so I may not be much, but I'm all I think about. Back to plumbing. So plumbing systems. I mean, gosh, what would your place be like without plumbing? What would your life be like? It would not be that cool. Indoor plumbing was just fantastic. Being able to use the John, being able to wash dishes and have hot water. Oh, what about showers? Are showers just the most unbelievable thing there ever was? I mean, much less baths. Yeah, plumbing is just the greatest. And let's go in. This was a bit long about Jay. I think we're about to go in the house. But I wanted you to get a sense of somebody that does plumbing too.
Now the job is joist.
Right,
Joist word.
right.
So you
Yeah,
see,
it's a little easier.
what we're talking about is that slab on grade, the plumbing rough-in has to be spot on because you have to be under the slab, sleeved and through the footing. For your waste has got to leave the building, so it's got to go out somewhere. But The waste has got to pump up in the wall, and it's got to pump up also right where your WCs are. In your WC, your water closet stub, which is called a closet flange, goes on that stub when it's roughed in. Closet flange is what your toilet bolts to. It's 12 inches off the wall to the center of that stub. And it can't be 11, it can be 13 or 14, but it's 12 inches. And your venting and it's got to be in the wall. And your waste, your waste has to be in the wall because your venting has to go right up that wall from the waste. And then your labs, your sinks, your lavatories, that has to come up in that wall. Your showers have to come up in that wall. So the slab, you've got to know where those walls are before there's ever concrete down. You don't put them in later when you snap out the walls. So you have to locate those walls now. In a raised foundation, you can do the footing and all the dirt work and the concrete work and run the joists. And before you sheet those floors, then you can hang all the waste plumbing on the floor. You can nail it. You can nail it really easily. So it takes a lot more prep, and you've got to do a lot more figuring it out, a lot more accuracy to do plumbing correctly.
Define walls when the building's been defined with framing.
What's that?
We can't see it.
Oh, I don't have it on.
Okay. That makes sense.
That might.
When you're
Maybe.
recording,
Why?
No, I turned it on.
are you recording?
I am, thank you. Resume recording. You guys remember redoing that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I'll go look.
You took a roll, right?
I can't remember. Yeah. Oh, wait, actually, let me see if anybody's showing up. Now, I know Tyler made it, but Alec, did you make it? Alexandria? Emmett? No? Hudson? So I'm recording. I knew I was.
Well, on all those slab buildings, we rely heavily on the concrete foreman to be the guy in charge to tell us where everything is. Because we need to know, as long as the plans are drawn correctly, we can follow the plan, but we need those starting points. And there's so many variables in slab work nowadays with some of the jobs we work on. As they get more and more complex, it's harder to understand sometimes, the involvement of the concrete. Yes. So.
Okay, so you're gonna do this job on a remodel and just kind of get some layout on some same page of where stuff goes.
Right. Yeah, I've got a couple hours of paperwork to get ready for tomorrow and next week, and then actually I'm leaving at 2 o'clock today. Taking off. That's all I'm gonna say about it. I have a friend coming from Colorado. Yeah, what can I say? Happens once in a while. Yeah. It's the 20. Yeah.
I digress again. So Jay, normally,
Yeah.
we're kicking off at 2 o'clock. What would you have?
Currently, we have about 82 projects we're working on. No, 82 projects.
They're all in various phases of rough.
All in various phases. Some are almost finished, some are just beginning.
At this point, we have cut off everything, saved off, cut off everything from the meters. Nothing goes to the house. It's all gonna get run new, right?
That's right.
Gas line
That's right.
and a new water line. So we have a new water line coming to new service entry, which we're gonna take you back to, which we're gonna have to take out this whole driveway, do some trenching. It's gonna be new driveway, a different kind of driveway. And then the gas, and actually, let's talk about the gas for just a second, because there's a special thing that has to happen with the gas. And that's based on the fact that we have an on-demand
Water here.
water. An on-demand water heater what's the special, what's the special part of that from gas?
Well, the thing about an on-demand water heater is unlike a storage water heater, which has a standing pilot, and you've got 30 or 40 or 50 gallons worth of water that's heating. On-demand water stores no water at all. So you need that water that passes through there to be heated extremely fast, just like that. So in order for that to happen, it requires a lot of energy. So you need a larger gas line to supply the needs of an on-demand water heater.
So typical gas line going to a vessel is 3/4.
Well, it depends. The way you size gas piping is from the meter to the farthest fixture. You add up all the BTUs in the house, and then there's a chart that you read in the plumbing code that will tell you, based on distance and the BTU demand, it will tell you the size of the piping required for each of those fixtures.
Pretty typical size. Pretty typically.
Well, it used to be in homes years ago, when 1 inch was a little more typical pipe size to a resident, smaller, 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, 2-bath, kitchen, laundry.
So 1 inch.
home.
Yes.
1 inch. I think 1 inch is what came out of here. I think we're upsizing to 1.5 inches on this project based on the distance to the water heater. That's right. It's way more BTUs. Right, exactly.
So I misspoke when I said normal gas is 1/2 to 3/4. Normal gas is 3/4. 3/4 to 1 inch, not 1/2 to 3/4.
Hey Rodney,
Yes.
if you want to install a tankless water heater, does that mean you have to redo all of your plumbing from the gas meter?
No. Well, to the gas meter, yeah. You have to go from the gas meter to your service entry. Actually, I take it back. You have to go to your service entry, or maybe you have to go, no, you have to just go to your service. No, you have to go to the on-demand. Pretty sure you have to go to the on-demand. Well, you take it to your service entry, and then you'd probably have to upsize to your on-demand. But really, you just figure the longest, furthest one from your gas meter, and you add up all the BTUs in between, and look in the book, and it'll tell you the size that you need.
I prefer gas because it's
Yeah, it's cheaper.
Electric does heat water, and one really cool thing about electric, other than the energy use, is that you have no footprint.
Right.
There's no fluid, whereas heating stuff with gas, you have to have this.
The electric water heaters have no food at all, zero. Gas heaters. And those, of course, on demands have they're 90% efficiency, so they have PVC fluid. They have a really cool fluid. You'll see this.
These are also not system. Wow.
Right.
Which is also nice. What we got to show you all is that this on demand, not only in its fluid, does it can be plastic.
That's right.
And you don't have a whole lot of triple wall collar and that stuff.
No,
So you
because
don't have all
they,
this insulation around it, triple wall collars as a plastic roof, but also in it, you have combustion.
that's right.
Otherwise, in that our utility room might have to put high end.
That's right.
Make up there, which my owner did not want in the door.
Right.
And then I found out.
Yep. That's another thing.
Yes.
Hot water or a water heater closet, you have to have makeup air. Depending upon the BTUs of the water heater, you have to have so many square inches of makeup air, high and low. In the door, if you're an outside separate water heater closet, or just one of those, those water heater enclosures, they have to have X amount of makeup air.
And what is makeup air?
That's the air that's used to combust. So combustion is oxygen, air, right, fuel, and heat source, spark. In this case, the gas. The pilot would be the spark, or the piezoelectric spark. And then what's the oxygen is the air, so it draws air. So if you have a gas burning appliance in a room that doesn't have the X amount of square inches available to draw air for its combustion, you basically have a starved combustion and it won't work. So if you were to put that, Renai in the, well, you see where it is in this outside utility room. Now, we did not have Benson on this, not the Renai. We didn't have vent because the Renai has combustion air or makeup air in its flue pipe. It draws outside air in. But if that were a 50-gallon water heater, we couldn't do it. It would starve. It wouldn't fire. The gas wouldn't fire. Because you'd just be drawing a little bit of air at the threshold, if that. If we had a good threshold with a good sweep on it, you wouldn't even be getting that. So that's another great feature.
That's right. And they burn so much more efficiently.
Yeah.
And that's why you can do it in.
Would you use research for?
Yes, there's a,
Top there.
that's right.
Whatever's cooling down.
That's right. The on-demand water heater that we like to use is the Navian, because they have a recirculation pump and an expansion tank inside of the heater already built in. And that's the only water on-demand heater on the market up till now that utilizes that. So that's one heater we've been going to time again. Well, I think they're starting to follow suit, but so far they really haven't come close to what the Navian has to offer. Judy has one. Yeah.
Another $700 and
Right.
ours. It starts model and it's like 28.
Yeah. Plenty to edit then.
Now we're recording.
Okay.
All right, so this is that utility room right behind Jay's.
Back in the utility room. Jay, Alan. Jay, tell us what we're looking at.
What you're looking at? Well, this is the water softener loop. We loop the pipes together basically just for testing right now.
So this is a brine tank?
Yeah, this one.
Soft water, pretty much a must in Santa Barbara. If you're building something new, you're gonna have a soft water. You're gonna have a soft water system. You're gonna have a soft water loop.
We have a resin tank and a brine tank. A brine tank is what holds the salt or the sodium, potassium, whatever you use for your material to soften the water, and then the resin tank hooks up here. So this is a 1-inch pipe. This is the supply line that comes in from the water meter.
Yeah, that's supply line. Oh, it comes from water.
The water meter.
Water meter.
The meter.
Water heater.
The meter.
So that supply line, I'm just gonna. That supply line, 1-inch line is the water supply. It comes in the building on the outside right there. The pressure regulator on the outside of the building comes out the wall, comes over, and gets into this wall and drops down.
Right here.
So this is the first place the water enters the building and actually goes into something.
That's correct.
Right? That's the first place it goes is through the water softener.
Do the water softener first, just to soften or treat the water before it goes into any part of the house, even before it goes into the water heater. Right.
Hey, Ronnie.
It's really important that Ismail has drawn arrows on here so that if you.
So with something like that, would it divert out to the irrigation before the water softener?
You would probably want to do that if you didn't want to irrigate something.
Right.
So yeah, otherwise, that's the first place that water hits, goes through your meter, service into the house, and goes right to that soft water.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure that irrigation water is a tee off.
Before that.
Tee off, yeah, before that, after the meter, obviously.
Right.
But then it's a tee off for irrigation.
Okay.
And that's how that's handled.
Yeah.
That can tee off virtually anywhere. Tee it off there, in front there, and take it to your plantation, you can take it off back there.
Yeah, because it would be a bad mistake.
Yeah,
Going
to
after
use-
that and then using salt,
Yeah, plants wouldn't like it, would
and then it's stuck in your soil too. Yeah, that would be really bad.
they? That too, because you have to, you'll go on to tell you some of what you have to do with the stuff that those probably takes, you know.
He's not the guy coming back. We know for sure which direction the water flows.
It's good.
And typically on a softener up to 1.25 inches, it flows from right to left. Water softeners that are 1.5 inches or higher, it goes from the left to right.
It's good to
So
know.
it's just a nice reminder to do that. So from here, it goes through the water softener, it goes back up back into the framing where Rodney just showed you. It goes, there's a T back there, and it goes 3/4 cold, soft to the rest of the house. And then this insulated line right here above my head is 3/4 line that feeds the on-demand water heater. The next line over here with the insulation on it is the return line. And this line here is the hot water out. It leaves the water heater and goes and circulates all through the house to all the fixtures in the house. And at the farthest fixture, it turns around and just comes all the way back to the water heater.
So it loops all the way back. So the water goes through the house.
It leaves the water heater. As you open a faucet somewhere in the house, it will leave the water heater. And at the same time, it enables the recirc pump to turn on, and it starts circulating hot water through the heater and through the system, so that when you turn on that water, within ideally about 10 seconds, you'll get hot water.
So you all get that? That not only does it heat that water on demand, like flash heat it as it passes through it, but it's a system, is a loop, a pressurized loop through all the fixtures, coming back to that on-demand heater again with a recirc pump in that loop that keeps the water pumping and keeps it hot when it needs to be, so really on demand. And then when it's not on demand, everything just shuts off. That's heat energy. If you haven't turned on that's triggered by when you turn on the water, the hot water on any one of your fixtures.
Charge.
They're under pressure.
Right.
Valves.
Yeah.
The valves. The valves the valves at the faucets.
That's right.
And when you turn on a cold water faucet, the cold water, which is not attached to the hot water.
That's right.
Where's the cold water?
The cold,
Right out of the softener?
it comes right out of the softener, and you can't see it, but on the other side in the ceiling lid, the pipe changes from 1 inch to 3/4. It goes 3/4 to the rest of the house, and then it goes 3/4 to the water heater.
Okay, so the code, separate circuit basically.
Yeah, basically,
Doesn't
right.
do anything to the water.
No, not at all.
Then turn on the water, the hot water faucet, triggers all kinds of stuff. It
Yeah.
triggers research pump to happen.
Right.
So that starts happening, then it doesn't happen like a regular research pump, it's kind of almost happening all the time, right?
Right.
Need the faucet.
These particular heaters have two different options for recirculation. You can buy a separate control for about $100, and you can set it to basically like a timer. So you can have the recirc come on at 6 in the morning till 10, and again at 6 at night till 10, whenever your peak water usage is. If you opt not to buy that extra timer, it has like a smart control feature in it where it keeps track of your hot water usage. So after about a week or two of living in the house, it will kind of know when you tend to use hot water. And so it will anticipate those times, and the pump will come on a few minutes before those times,
Yeah.
so that when you do use them, it's actually hot. It's pretty amazing. It works well. Now, if you normally take a shower at 6 and you start taking showers at midnight, it will still come on at midnight and circulate a little bit in case you're going to do that. So it gets a little, sometimes it can get a little confused, but it's a very handy feature.
So, but you don't put a research pump in every investment heater. Not every water system put in has a research pump.
No, I mean, it's really, if it's something that the owner wants. you know,
Yeah, I think, standing there for a minute plus. And then in front of resident, what's the cost to add into an existing system to put an ice rink?
well, it depends. I mean, if your piping is below the slab, it's really challenging to do. If your piping is in an attic space or under a raised foundation, it's much easier to do. What we have to do is go to your farthest hot fixture and cut in a T and run a cold line all the way back to your water heater and put a pump there between that line and your water heater. And then we insulate it as well. And if you are on an older home and you didn't have to insulate your pipes as part of the code, then chances are none of the hot water lines are insulated, and we would offer insulating those lines as well. Right.
These are all insulated. Anything that's carrying hot wires.
That's right, nowadays, yeah.
Can it be insulated then? So this guy has built in restrict, so as soon as you turn on hot water, it starts restricting everywhere. Then it seems ideally then every fixture is gonna be hot.
Right, we try to get our hot water loop within a minimum of 10 feet from the fixture. So that when you open the faucet, usually it's less than 10 seconds you have hot water flowing. Sometimes it could be as quickly as 1 or 2 seconds, almost immediately.
I'm sure some of you can relate to that.
Right,
This
it saves water.
and it saves water. Big time. This right here. Let's put that Jay's head in there. What am I seeing here?
Oh, this is the vent for the water heater, and this has an air intake and heat out.
So is the air intake in here? No, the air takes.
It takes air from the roof, on the top of the roof, and brings it into the water heater.
The combustion air.
The combustion air, so that it functions properly. Without combustion air,
Starves.
it would starve and it would. Yeah. Without combustion air, it would go bam every time it turned on and shut off. We've had it happen before.
Okay, what else is there? What else can you tell me? Because we got some condensate.
This is the drain line for the water softener. When it-
Now, every water softener has a brine tank.
Yes, if it's a softener that you add salt or sodium potassium.
Is that what that's for?
That's what this is for. This is for when the water softener regenerates, which is based on gallons used. It is about a 2-hour cycle to regenerate, and it needs to dump the water someplace when it does that. So this water line or this drain line gets pushed from the pressure in the system. It pushes the water to a location. The location we've chosen here and we do most often is to the laundry box, which is over in the
So
garage.
is it pushing without a pump?
Without a pump, it's just pressure from the city.
Okay, so it doesn't need gravity or.
It'll pump as high as 16 feet.
When do we have to?
Well, here, in this instance, here, the one thing about Navian heaters is that they condense. And so as they heat up, they condense, and there's a drain in the bottom of them to collect that condensation, and that's got to be pumped someplace. So this line down here we have set up, we're going to mount a pump down here. We'll take the water from the condensate water from the water heater into this pump.
And all this stuff has to go to a sanitary waste. Can't just pump it on the ground. So what a water heater has, a vessel type water heater, has a T&P valve, temperature and pressure relief valve. And that is plumbed from the top of the heater down, and it has to leave the building and turn down 6 inches of the ground. It has to leave the building, period. In case it ever blows, it's got this valve that will blow first and blow hot water out. So in this case, this is condensate. And condensate in any waste generated by anything liquid has to go to sanitary waste. There are no legal gray water systems. I take it back. The county does have a plan for gray water systems. There are some gray water systems that are limited, they're very prescribed. but this house doesn't have one. So all the waste goes to sanitary waste. That means it's got to get somewhere into your waste pipe. So it's got to be pumped up and over, and the laundry box is a very typical place. So you'll see it'll drop down inside the laundry box where there's a drain for the washer.
And it's gonna pump it up and over to the same laundry location as the water softener drain. Here's the condensate line. Pump's gonna be mounted in here. That'll happen on finish after it's all drywalled and painted and all that. And then it'll connect from here.
Do all water heaters have that condensate waste, or is it just the tankless?
Just the tankless, yeah. This Navient tankless, not even all the tankless have condensate.
Okay.
The Navient does have condensate for some reasons because it's 90% efficiency. The 90% efficiency forced air units also have condensates. They have to go to a sanitary waste. And they have to have P-trap as well. I think I deal with that in HVAC on this particular project too.
To the pump and from the pump to here. And it'll pump.
We got a duplex outlet.
But no,
for you.
regular gas-fired water heater vessel type, no condensate.
Power for the water heater.
Condensates, air conditioners.
Right, and that you
And-
can drain to the landscape.
No,
No?
absolutely not.
Oh.
Absolutely not. Condensate has to go to a sanitary. You don't dump anything. Not legally. not
One can and
code.
power for the water softener.
Water softener. What you gotta remember is that the water softener has a drain line. It's under pressure, so it doesn't.
That's right.
It's going Up, overhead, overdrive, it's dropping down. I'll show you a little more. Dropping down.
That's right. Yep.
And condensate line, just like an air conditioning compressor,
Right.
condensate line has to go to a sanitary tube.
Right.
Can't go outside like. It has to go to sanitary waste. When we say sanitary waste, we mean the waste that goes through your shower, your faucet, and your sinks, and your toilet, all goes down to the sanitary waste. Everything that
That's right.
leaves this room goes to sanitary waste.
Yeah, there are some exceptions. If you can't get it to a sanitary waste, sometimes the building department will allow you to put it into the ground if you build a gravel pit. It is the water, the small dry well, and the water is slightly acidic, so they prefer not to do that. But there are some times where you just don't have a way to get anywhere.
So pumping, condensate, and we could conceivably condensate. If we had a drain nearby, and we get a quarter-inch fall, we just tie it in. Right?
You can just tie it into a drain. Yeah,
But from here, over to our nearest drain, laundry, there's no way to get involved.
Doorway.
We got the bottom.
that's right. Yeah,
Because the bottom, we can't get to a doorway. If that doorway wasn't there.
you could probably make it. You might make it. Yeah. Now, one other thing I'll mention about these is that we put an acid neutralizer on that condensate drain to neutralize the acid before the slight acidity in the condensate as it gets pumped. And we would do the same if we went into a dry well. You put a neutralizer in there to cut back on that.
Do those have a lifespan
Yeah.
on them?
What's this?
What now?
Do those have a lifespan on them? The acid neutralizer?
I have no idea. No idea, but also you don't need to pump condensate ever if you have a fall to get it to a way to get it to a sanitary waste.
This copper pipe right here is the temperature and pressure relief valve. The TNP, which every water heater has to have by
Yes,
code
they have
for good
them too.
reason.
I didn't know that.
It doesn't matter. Any type of water heating, whether it be a boiler, a standing pilot heater, or a tankless water heater, has to have a temperature and pressure relief valve. And what that does is if the water heater for some reason fails to turn off, we call that something like a runaway heater, and the thing continues to heat and heat and heat and heat past its normal capacity. If you don't have a place for that excess pressure that happens when you build heat, it will just explode. So instead, the temperature and pressure relief valve opens and discharges the hot water.
It's just set to.
It's either 200, it's either 210 degrees or 150 pounds pressure. 210 degrees. The water heaters are standardly set at 120 degrees.
It's the temperature and pressure release.
That's right.
Where you see that line? It's gonna go out. It's gonna leave the building past the stuff and it's gonna turn down to an elbow. That's it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be between 6 and 18 from finished grade. 6 and 18 inches from finished grade. 6.
Six. It's
That's right.
also it's got to go to the outside, and if it can't go to the outside, it also has to be covered.
No, there are,
Can't you dump them in the steam pan and then?
they do not really like you to do it in city pan. There's another way of doing it, which is kind of, we don't use them very often, but there's a device that you can attach to the temperature pressure relief valve that will actually turn the gas off if it gets to a runaway situation. If you have no other choice.
Because in some cases, smell and grade, while you're in the middle of the building,
Sometimes down in a basement.
where are you gonna go?
Down in a basement, a lot of times in a basement, we're allowed to run them into a floor sink
Yeah, that's what we're.
if there's no other way to get outside to grade. If you have to go up and out, they don't work.
So
They won't allow you. I mean, it should work theoretically because it's under pressure. It'll push it, but they don't want you to go up and out. It's got to go at a quarter inch per foot out.
So you can't legally dump your TNP down the steam pan and have your steam pan outside?
No. No. Can I take this call? Hi, Juan.
Let's pass that one. No. Couple of these were really short.
Oh, I know, and it's just unbelievable.
Clarity, yeah.
I think we're good.
Okay.
So, okay, so let's go in there and let's lay that out. We'll take Jay in for some feedback too. Somehow this got recording again. I don't know how, but we're
We
recording.
got some editing to do, right?
So we're gonna go in. We're all going in. Okay, we're through. Brandon, hey, Theo, we're coming in through your door, buddy. We're in, Theo. Okay, we're through. So we're taking you, we're gonna take all of us, Jay and John. Actually, let's take a look. You know what? The second step here. And then how about you? We're recording again, so let's go through that again. We're laying out with John. Well, we'll take this first name to John. Back here with Jay. Where's Ismail? This is Ismail.
Number one plumber
And
here.
this is Rudy.
And ready.
And this is Adrian, the tin vendor. Okay, so what we're doing, what we just did is we laid out this shower valve. So John, could you tell us a little bit about this while you're right here?
So we want to match the same height from the shower to this tub.
Okay.
So we took the offset from the bottom of this tub to the floor, cancel it out, and then we mounted the valve at 40 inches from the tub up onto the wall.
In dead center of the tub.
That's
And one that goes up from there to the shower, right?
yeah.
There's the steps for cool. Oh, there's The tub is built, at some point I'll tell you a little bit more about tub. It's kind of tricky. The way we did this is that instead of on a deck with equal reveals, on a marble deck with equal reveals, there's the closet flares, that's stuff for the WC, which is out there 14 inches.
12.
Center. No, 14.
Oh, this one is 14, that's
So
right.
we're gonna further this wall.
You already furred the wall in.
Now, we further the wall, so now we won't have that gap.
That's right. Now it should be 12, which is a standard run
Yeah,
for a
is it
toilet.
12 and 12 minutes or is it 12?
Well, it's 12 plus whatever the finish is.
In this case, we call it
12 from finish,
12 from finish to center of the
center of the drain,
drain, and that gets your toilet pretty much goes up to the wall.
about an inch away from the wall.
Was way more than this. Now, by furring this wall, existing toilet drain is going to be just pushing the toilet. And then all this is getting waterproof plaster. We hope to do the whole thing in this plaster. Waterproof plaster is going to be the shower surround, marble deck, marble face. Let's walk into this. Let's actually do, let's go to the kitchen. All right, take it back. Let's put it on the wall. We'll do the back.
You see where he's standing is where Alice ended.
Wait, there's a copper pipe. You know, it's not insulated, so it must be cold.
That's a cool line.
And here's a Kumco, right? And there are insulated, so it must be hot.
Very good.
Look at this. This is where John is working right now. This, ladies and gentlemen, this box, this drain box. There, that box was set in the yellow sand before the slab was poured and formed before the slab was poured. All of these guys, this waste, it's put on the other side, some drain and waste. Is it laid out right? Is it 12 inches? It's got tape.
So. Might be a little far. 13 is what we kind of go for. Yeah, 13 right on the
Right
nose.
on that money.
Right on the nose.
13.
That makes a plumber happy.
Yeah, that's nice. So that got laid out just right for that wall. And as you can see, the vents in the wall, both vents in the wall. Waste for the
Clean out and waste.
clean out. And the vanity waste is all those. So we nailed that. Got that laid out, right?
Absolutely perfect.
Now, got the drain box,
For the shower drain.
with shower drain, and then that's not dead solid perfect. We're gonna get it side to side, dead center, and maybe a little bit towards this, a little bit offset, but regardless, it's all gonna float to drain. Instead of the so a little bit about the shower.
I mean, this, being the shower valve. This is the shower valve that was set to center in between the rough exterior wall and the rough interior part of the shower dam. And then this is where the shower head will go. This nipple in here is just a test nipple. We'll pull this out after the tile's all done and put in the proper chrome arm and the shower head that goes with that. This is a hot water line that's insulated down to within a couple feet of the valve, and then this is the cold water line on the side.
What's really important in the shower is where you set that valve out from the wall, out from the framing. It's about as important as it gets, because showers done properly need to be floated. Dead plumb. So you make your shower square by floating it, by putting in lath, which is black paper and chicken wire. And then tile guy floats it and gets it smooth and dead flat, dead plumb, corner square. And then off that float, that's when you do just tile on the float. So where that valve is set, it needs to be anticipated for float and tile, because it's float, thin set, and tile. So you've got to have a tile guy that tells you, yeah, it's gonna be X. 1 7/8 out, 1 5/8 out.
Do you do that for the, for like the floor where you're standing in the shower as well?
No, not so much. You don't know so much. You just, your drain's a stub, drain gets cut. But you do need to know the thickness of your tile. Yeah. You need to know about how much flow. It's not as important as your shower.
But I know you do like, or sometimes people do like a hot mop, right?
They
Is that
used to
not
do
as
hot mops, but now it's pretty much all.
Okay. And then do you do like the tile and the, or float and then tile over that?
So in a shower pans are a whole thing. You can buy pre-made shower pans that set and they're already waterproof, and you just bring overlap waterproofing down on top of them. And typically, tile guys do the waterproof pans, and they tie them into the plumber's drain, and they do chlorine, which is this about 1/8 inch thick waterproof material. You can fold the corners, bring it up 6, 10, maybe 12 inches up. There's a code for it. Staple it off. Basically make a tub out of that shower drain, and you have to fill it and water test it overnight. It needs to hold water overnight. Plug your drain and then fill that guy. It needs to stay at the same level. So you have waterproof pan, and then you don't attach anything to it. You float mortar bed on it to your drain. You float it to drain. How much of float you can get it, but anything downhill, as long as it floats to your drain, wherever your drain is, linear drain, center drain, you float to it, and then your tile follows that.
And it's called chloroline.
Chloralloy. Yeah, chloralloy, that's the material. Then there may be a newer substance, a newer material that plumbers are using for waterproofing, but that's still.
Smile did a nice job of using this plug on the bottom that would go to a tub filler. If you had a tub, he did a nice job of using that as a block to secure this pipe. So there is, I mean, you can't, this thing doesn't move at all.
Yeah.
With the plugs here, plugs on both sides, strapped here, right there. I mean, nothing's gonna move on this.
Which is nice for a variety of reasons, because I have a water hammer. That's where it's coming from.
Yeah,
But it's, you know, it's my pipes hammering in the walls.
it could be that, it could be a faulty pressure regulator. Could be,
From all the way to the street.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty important.
Yeah.
So. Just might know, so, yeah, just form that drain, right?
No, he hasn't done that yet. We'll get it centered. We've got a little bit of concrete to chip out to get it right in the center.
Of course, none of that shows. This station, you know, all the other concrete you see here. It's all finished floor, it's gonna be a ground. It's all homogeneous surface, and then we'll clear ceiling. But this dam that John's put in 1.5 inches, right there, which is up, it's gonna wind up being 6 inches wide, 6 inches tall by the time it gets floated. And it's a career level on top of it. We'll talk about tile and some of the junction. Not much, and maybe because I anticipate the shower being lighter, but I wanted something Jane knows fully well, and John probably knows about too. But now, WC's water closets, toilets need by code 30 inches from their center, 15 aside from center.
That's a very important statistic. It's in, legally by code, in IBC, which is International Building Codes, all the way to there. WC, or water closet, needs to be 30 inches on center from anything, any wall or vanity structure, anything. Right, so that's your minimum, is 15 inches each side of center of your toilet. You can go bigger than that, but you can't go smaller. 30 inches.
Can't go under that, but you can go.
Yeah.
You can go as far over that.
Yeah, as far as you like.
And I don't like just, I try to get closer to 18 side or even 17 side and 16 side. In this case, 14 inch vanity and stuff. 17.5 inches to the center, 17.5 inches to it's going to be a finished in final shower. Shower, which gives us, it's going to give us about 31 inches inside that shower. It's a nice shower. You can see it's.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be great. Yeah.
People will be able to get in if they want. So what else, just the drain has to happen in this, right?
That's all that has to happen is the drain, and then the tile setter takes
The
over.
drain is actually already in that box tied into your waste, right?
Yeah, it's the trap arm is in there. We have to put a P-trap in there, and then the drain.
And every fixture gets it. Correct?
That's correct.
Water waste bin and waste, every waste gets it.
Yeah, except with toilets, the P-traps are built into the china.
Okay.
So there's no P-trap that gets installed underneath the concrete or subfloor.
Okay, so.
It's just an elbow. It's just a 90-degree built into a toilet.
Tons of things to do.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Because I was telling my owners, the jury yesterday, that to do a walk-in shower. You know, first we have to ascertain what the second floor joist is. They say
Right.
we have those TTIs.
Right.
Can we cut out enough to get enough wall to build up to slope the drain and
Right.
have a walk-in shower?
Yeah.
And I told you, you have to have whoever.
That's right.
The shower.
Yeah. 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 Right. So Rodney, what's the purpose of the P-trap? That's right. Up into the house. Yeah, that's right. That's correct. That's what it's for. That's all it's for. Yeah.
Because if you didn't have that,
It sucks, man.
Sewer smell.
Living in an open sewer. Living over a pit toilet. Hate that.
Well, thank you. Can you guys shut up on
I want to get this from the other side, maybe. Into the garage. Now here's the large 1.5-inch gas line we were
Big
talking
gas
about.
pipes. Black pipe.
Inside the house, the gas line, and we run in black pipe. Just black iron pipe, right?
That's right.
Black iron pipe, and that's all it needs to be. But when the house. It's galvanized.
That's
And
correct.
then when it gets in the ground, it's probably gonna be polyethylene.
It's going to be
Yellow.
polyethylene pipe.
Polyethylene, very,
Yeah, we have to put a tracer wire on it. Yeah.
That's done so we can tie into it. How deep do we have that?
18 inches of cover. So usually a 20-inch trench, 22-inch deep trench. And the water only has to be 18 inches or 12 inches, so, but we usually just put same trench. Yeah. Deep is okay. You don't want to get too deep because then if you ever have to repair it, it's hard to get to.
Shade the trench?
No, it's not necessary, but it just depends. If your soil is really rocky, then you might want to shade it rather than put native soil back in. Locator. Yeah.
So you know you should get-
Right?
we say
That's
shade.
why you shade a trench. Who knows what shading a trench is? Two reasons to shade a trench. One is to soften what your pipe bedded in, which is you shade it with yellow or washed plaster sand. And I like to put washed plaster sand on top of my pipes. Well, I like it on the bottom and on the top. I like at least 4 inches on top of any pipe, because when I start digging for that pipe and I hit yellow plaster sand, I know where I'm at. I know I'm near pipe.
Pretty good.
Right.
When you start digging, you pick up faster sand and buildings. Well, that's why
It's utilities.
be careful, because the last thing you will do is cut that in a gas line.
Right. Another thing that they do have that you can use sometimes is a tape that sits right on top of the pipe that says caution gas pipe. And you run that tape all along the gas pipe, but that's only in certain instances we use that.
I watched the gas company guys well on gas pipe.
Yeah, it's crazy. Guys are,
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna get back over here. They go, really?
Yeah.
You don't need to. Okay, so there's a big old 1.5" gas pipe size. One of all these pictures here. And what we've got, in here, and I'm not sure anybody's sized the BTUs, but
oh yeah,
what we've got is we got a burning stove, we got an on-ramp water heater, we've got a forced air unit.
and a clothes dryer. Clothes dryer, right?
And clothes dryer.
Right.
And then you can figure inch and a half, inch and a half. Is enough. You guys know that by experience.
That's right.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so let's take a look. Very interesting for me. What is happening here is, this is the washer dryer location. It's supposed to change and go into a closet in the hall, but it just wasn't going to fit. So we decided to keep the laundry here in the existing place where it's always been, and just repipe it. So that's what you're seeing here. Could you describe a little bit of what we're seeing?
Yeah. Yeah, the first thing, oops. The first thing we're seeing down here is a clean out. Camera down. Is we put a clean out in here for two reasons. One, because you need one on every drain line. Has to have a clean out. That's right. Well, it's in case your sewer ever gets plugged up with toilet paper or turds or whatever gets in there. Roots sometimes intrude on old sewer lines.
Let's take a break. We're going to break until 20 after, and then come back. Go back to 20 after. You get a 9-minute break. 9 minutes. And Frank, help me remember, please. Okay, so welcome back. I'm Joel at home, and let's go right to Ben and just see. I think I'm gonna go right to finish off. I want to finish off with this little PowerPoint. I don't think I've got much left in J. This is actually pretty long.
Yeah, so every plumbing drain line has to have a clean out. And we put a clean out here that for that very reason, so you can clean out the line when you need to. We've also inserted a test ball that you fill with air. It's got a little bicycle, like a Schrader valve on the end of it. You hook up a bicycle pump to it or and you fill it full of air, and it allows the water to just stay in the piping above when we test. So we're not testing the existing piping. We're testing the water above it. They've been around for
So it's like
15 years.
it's a weenie, right?
We do it only in the instances where we don't want to retest the slab waste again. It just takes more time to fill up the waste, but it's already been tested, it's already been passed by inspection.
So when we go for our plumbing showers, these specs are all filled up.
To the roof. Right. Right. Right, filled with water. So what we have here is we have a double stack on a 2-inch waistline. When you stack two things on top of each other, the larger pipe has to be on the bottom. In other words, we have a 2-inch drain line, so it doesn't matter, but say this was gonna be a laundry sink, the 2-inch waste line has to be lower, the larger pipe has to be first and then the smaller one on top. Right, so
Each of these pipes has to be trapped.
we have a P-trap, and this goes to the laundry box for the washing machine. And then this one over here, this P-trap goes to a, we're gonna put there's a fitting here that's not on yet, more on trim. It's called a Mister drain fitting that will incorporates a 1-inch air gap between the condensate drain and the softener drain from the mechanical room, and there'll be a Mister drain fitting here that will allow a 1-inch air gap.
And the air gap, physically, what does it do?
It holds the pipe 1 inch above the sewer line, so that in case the sewer ever came up, couldn't get in contact with that water and somehow flow backwards into the yeah, it's the same thing that you have, same thing you have on a dishwasher. Same kind of deal. So this will get a,
To a dishwasher, basically, down below the sink, right?
well, no,
Does that still do what you need?
still have to do that. It's silly. It's really silly. Anyway, there'll be a finished panel that'll go in here after dry. So we have access to get it. That's right.
Or needs to be rated, this box is metal, it's rated 1 hour, it's usually not metal.
Garage is attached to the house. It has to be separated from the house by a rated wall, 1 hour. And it achieves a 1 hour rating in a variety of ways. 5/8 drywall is type X. It has a 1 hour rating. The door has to have a 1 hour rating, has to have a label on top, has to have a self closure. Any penetrations in that wall. That garage, like we had to put a rated access for the attic, we had to put a rated steel box, everything we had to do is we had to be rated for an hour. That means it would take a fire an hour to get through it, or to transfer it. Firewall.
Right.
This got all broke out and new pipes.
Yes. Yeah. They make these boxes, the plastic ones we use have 2 places for drain lines. So if this was in a building that wasn't in a garage with a firewall, we could have used a plastic box here and we would have had 2 drain lines tied in instead of having to do this. This we had to do because it's a firewall. And you can't get these metal boxes with 2 drain outlets for whatever reason. We've tried. Yeah, okay.
Okay, Peter? Yeah. Good. All right. You can see, let's keep this big skin. There's a lot of plumbing coming out of the garage attic and from the utility room. We've got vent lines. So that laundry vent ties into our kitchen vents. So it's one vent penetration over the garage and all this. How many fixtures can you vent to a stack?
24 fixture units.
So is the sink a single fixture?
The sink is 2.
2 fixtures.
Yeah. It's changed. Laundry is 3, I believe. Toilets are now 4. They used to be 3. So they've changed. Showers are 2. Right. Yeah. That's right. And the code changed, I think, about 10 years ago. And sometimes I still get confused on because I'm so used to program to.
I remember one 1981 test.
Right,
Some of the questions were 10-story building on the 4th floor, how many fixture units can you stack on them?
right, yeah,
I don't remember.
yeah,
Let me just ask my plumber.
yeah, sure.
This is what any general.
Let me go get my book and I'll tell you for sure.
UPC, right?
Yeah, and I'll tell you
So
for sure.
you still refer to UPC,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. I have a new code book in my truck
Uniform Plumbing Code.
because they do change. Things do change. No, UPC is what we use. Yeah,
For us, it's.
right. Yeah, and there's local.
So describe us what we're seeing.
See a lot of plumbing. The drain line, the existing drain line, because as Rodney mentioned earlier, the concrete floors are staying and getting refinished. We didn't want to do any concrete busting. So the existing drain line for the shower was here because the sink was over here someplace, right? I mean, I'm sorry for the sink. So we've tied on to somewhere in here. So we've tied on to the existing drain line for the sink, and we have ran a waste line. The issue is we can't run, you're only allowed to go 42 inches with an 1.5-inch trap arm. So this was more than 42 inches. So we had to upsize the pipe and go 2 inches to a certain point. Then we can run our trap arm within that 42 inches, but this is where we had to run the vent.
So you can run over 42, is that what's called dirty run?
No, well, someone calls it a dirty arm. It's not an actual term. It's actually a trap arm.
It's 48. You run 42. then
Three.
You have to go 142 upside the pipe.
It'll allow you to do that, right?
For how much longer?
Well, with a 1.5-inch pipe, you can run 3 feet 6 inches. With a 5-inch pipe, you can, or with a 2-inch pipe, you can go 5 feet. A 3-inch pipe is 8
All
feet.
those pipes there that are running horizontal are at a 2% slope, even though they look pretty level.
And a 4-inch pipe,
Yeah,
I
they have
believe
to
is 12 feet. We don't do that very
Yes.
often.
They are. Definitely on a 2% slope, even though they look like.
You know? Should I wave?
So it would suck if they weren't. They have water.
So this is the vent for the sink drain that runs back 1/4 inch per foot and ties into the laundry drain. It goes that way
And
because.
vents have also got to run uphill as well.
Or not see the vent
That vent
anywhere
does.
on the front of the house.
This case, in this case, if this had a ceiling, these vents, once they run above the ceiling in the attic space, they could.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
We would never have even considered, no plumber worth his salt would have considered taking those vents, that 2-inch ABS and running it, boring through, and thank God there was a 2x6 wall, boring through that wall all the way to get our vents back. We just, as soon as we got up above the plate line, we just turn up into the attic, and then we have to do all this stuff up in the attic, right? Tie together all kinds of vents and make a single vent penetration. But because we didn't have a crawl space and we had this vaulted ceiling, so I've jumped through all kinds of
Right.
crazy hoops.
Right.
In this case,
Everybody, every trade did,
Right.
especially every mechanical trade.
as you can see, all the water pipes.
Right. Right. Now, in terms of the water pipe, this is one of these, and I can't tell you which one without following it back to the water heater. But one of these is the hot water line that comes from the water heater when you turn it on. The other one is where it tees and it recirculates back. So that was what I was telling you. We tried to stay within 8 to 10 feet of the sink.
Yeah, so consider this, you're plumbing a regular vessel type heater, there's an end of the line, the cap. Not so with on demand or any kind of restrict, you have to have that on its loop.
So that you'll get hot water in a relatively short amount of time. Basically, what you can think of that T as like, you can think of that T as that's where your water heater is. Your water heater is right there. It's pretty darn close to the.
That's, so all these big installations, all this. Right there, that's
Yeah.
hot water.
They're all hot water lines. Smile does such a nice job notching around all the block work. I mean, it's so clean. It's just amazing. You're saying about as good.
know what I mean?
That's right.
You don't have any, you don't see any problem.
The codes change all the time. The code now is that you have to have 1-inch insulation on the pipe. So it's 1 inch,
It's thick.
1 inch thick all the way around. Just tremendous. Doesn't fit very well on a 2x4 wall.
That's big.
It's bigger. It used to be half inch. It's 1 inch. You can see right here, this piece right here.
Yeah, it's-
He put that piece there just to protect it from the cold water line from the electrical.
A little bit, so. He's got a pretty good sense. Excuse me, 220 cable going to the test charge.
Yeah.
Car charge.
Over here, this is a laundry box, or I'm sorry, ice maker box that we've installed under the kitchen sink.
Yeah, okay, and or water line in the refrigerator. Could be drinking water.
That's right.
Water system, or right, right.
That's right. Well, it goes from here through the wall over to the refrigerator location,
This is what?
which is,
I noticed that most of those electrical lines that are running through the 2x4s aren't covered with a mending plate to protect it from.
It's because they're so high and far back, I guess,
Is
but
it because they're deep enough in the
is where,
2x4?
what's over there.
let's show me where you
That's
see
half inch.
that.
Oh, it's all over, really.
It's bigger. It used to be half inch. It's 1 inch. You can see right here, this piece right here.
Right there,
He
stop.
put that piece there just to protect it from
See
the
how-
cold.
None of those,
Yeah, and then
No,
the
that-
only reason it can be is because they're deep enough.
they're deep enough,
It's
so
a
a
2x6
drywall
wall.
screw isn't gonna nick it and all that.
Because the inspector's pretty savvy, and I mean, he did.
Water
a
line
lot.
from the electrical.
Inspectors we had didn't let a lot slip, and they wouldn't let something like that slip. And these guys are just too clean not to do it.
Excuse me, 220 cable going to the test charge.
Yeah.
But you see,
Over here,
because.
this is,
because pipes are much thicker than the Romex, right? He's a lot closer. So he's got an alien plate. You can definitely hit that guy. These guys are far back in the center of that 206.
Test charge.
yeah.
Car charge.
Over here, this is a laundry box, or I'm sorry, well, it goes from here through the wall over, which is where? Oh, it's over there. Yeah, it's half inch.
Which is sheer on this side, so you go through on the other side. Come over here, and then goes down here, which is where,
Yeah, what is that? It's a Fisher McGill? I think it's a Fisher McGill. Okay, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, okay. Pretty sure I lost. Sound at the end there. All right, let's whip through this thing really fast. Plumbing system, city codes, identify the differences. So basically the DWV system, the drainage waste venting, is what we've talked a lot about. DWV. So there's a water supply system and then there's the DWV system. And the way they basically differ, so the water is copper is water supply systems are under pressure. And drain waste vent systems are not under pressure. They all have to be watertight. But they're a big difference. Among other things, that's a big difference. So the objective of this chapter, as you guys will have all read the chapter, is to read plumbing print, describes proper, explain proper design, installation of plumbing systems, how to repair sink drain problems, demonstrate a basic understanding of well and pump systems, which is interesting, and site safety measures. There's, so plumbing includes piping and fixtures to supply water for drinking, bathing, and laundry, drainage for wastewater that lead to municipal sewers or local septic. Plumbers must cut holes in notches, notch framing members must be reinforced with metal strapping, should be, not this, if you're notched, you should be. You won't see any notches here. You know, generally notch, we bore holes. I think you get called. And this is the beauty of TGIs, is they have knockouts for plumbing pipes. None of those holes were bored. Those are knockouts. Just take a hammer, bam. Those are ready to go holes in those guys for doing just that. Some states have plumbing codes, but I would think so. UPC. Water supply system distributes water under pressure, drains waste, DWP systems carry waste, solid waste, and wastewater. Here's some of the tools. There's a power auger, there's a chain cutter, there's a reamer, there's a couple of pipe wrenches. Rules, tape squares, transits, plumb bobs, chalk lines, compasses, dividers. On that job, the man gun job that we were just on was really important with the transit to shoot levels because I had to run all new waste out to the street. And so I had to ascertain where my pipes were and where they needed to be to get my 1/4 inch to a foot fall. And I had to tie in one side of the building with the other side. So I had some tricky elevations to work with. And all based on the length they had to go, because I wanted to go 1/4 inch to a foot, at least 1/4 inch to a foot. I could go a little bit deeper and a little bit shallower, but I wanted to keep it all about that because I knew we were going to have to dive to the street at one point anyway. The street was pretty far down. But once you get your lateral above your 6-inch waist at the street, you can pretty much waterfall down. There's some cutting tools, files, saws, chisels, snips, cutters. Torches, acetylene, propane, and not sure what MAP is. Anybody know what MAP is? What it stands for? Mostly you'll see propane torches. Our plumbers solder with propane torches. Very rarely you see them use acetylene. Always be aware of what's behind the workpiece. That's another thing that people like the Pro Press for, the pressed fittings. There are some places where in soldering you will burn wood, you will burn things. It's really easy to get to scorch things because your pipes are already in place in some cases, and you're sweating on fittings and you're sweating around wood and things that will scorch based on the propane torch. Whereas you can put on a Pro Press fitting, put a Pro Press over it, you can do a press fitting with no heat whatsoever and certainly no scorching. Make sure you have a fire extinguisher. So plumbing materials are pipe and tubing for supply liners, large diameter pipe to drain away wastewater, typically 4-inch ABS, valves and faucets for controlling, washers and O-rings, tapes and compounds and putties, pipe, several different kinds of material. Supply systems are made of copper, galvanized steel, and plastic, and DWV pipe is made of malleable iron, cast iron or copper, galvanized steel or plastic. Copper tubing comes as rigid or straight links, rigid straight links, or does come in flexible coils. Usually don't run a larger pipe and flexible 1/4 inch, stuff like that. There's uses for 1/4 inch water pipe. Used to use 1/4 inch water pipe over to feed your refrigerator water or ice maker. Now we're using polypro clear recipe hose. So it can be cut with a pipe or hacksaw. You can use a compression fitting or sweat solder. There's a compression fitting, and that's PEX, which is a PVC pipe. And that's not what we're talking about. PEX People are using PEX in houses. I repiped a rental I had in PEX, both my trailer, which is not here, will be hopefully not coming soon. And the tiny house are all plumbed in PEX. PB tubing is discontinued, so I don't even know about PB tubing. Cast iron is still in most of your houses and all of our commercial buildings use cast iron. It's called out, it's code in cast in commercial buildings, and joined with a neoprene sleeve and stainless steel clamps, which is very typical. Steel pipe, galvanized is used in water supply. Now, why don't we use galvanized water pipe anymore? Because we don't anymore.
Because it gets smaller.
Yeah, well, because it corrodes like crazy. And we have super hard water, which leaves deposits. So, I mean, I've repiped houses where, and water pipe is 1/2 inch. So, you know, 1/2 inch ID galvanized pipe, I've seen them literally pinhole water, just like completely corroded. Yeah, galvanized pipe, we phase it. You see any galvanized water pipe, supply pipe, we just want to phase it out. So we're not doing any galvanized pipe in the water anymore, at least around here. Has to have a coating of zinc to retard rusting. And then black pipe, it's painted rather than galvanized. It's black pipe, rusts quickly, and you only use it for gas. I don't know. Can't imagine using it for water. Valves, pretty typical valve. There's gate valves, and there's compression valves. There's faucets, they're compression or washerless. They prevent the controlled flow of water and usually deliver water to fixtures such as sinks or appliances. There's a typical faucet and how it works. Packing, dome bar, and screw. The pipes are drained or installed. Airborne microorganisms might enter system. So after system is recharged, it should be disinfected. It's a good idea. Fixtures. Water using devices, sinks, bathtubs, bidets, toilets, showers, receive water from the water system. They have to have means of delivering wastewater to the drain waste vending system. Toilet is referred to as a water closet. Here's some various plumbing sealants. Teflon tape, pretty common. Everybody's got some of this, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of those in their junk drawers. Slip joints, O-rings, pipe compound, plumber's putty, the wax ring that seals your john. Teflon is a trademark of DuPont, right? So you guys know about Teflon tape, right? It's that white tape. It's cheap as heck, you know, and you put it on, you know, your hose bib fittings, any fittings, your shower and stuff like that, and it will seal. It will seal most threaded pipe joints, especially ones that, you know, that are show and hidden, like pipe joints that are hidden, they're in walls or under floors or above attics. We just use pipe dope or kind of sloppier stuff, and it does the job too. So, reading prints, symbols for plumbing. What about it? Plumber may need to develop sketches, isometric plan view, riser diagrams, stuff like that. There's some symbols, kind of obvious. There's a gas line with G, the hose bib, usually it says HB, and uses the FG with the fuel gas. Fitting, symbols, this is all from your book. All these pictures are from your book too. There's a rough one of a 3-walled shower. Measure twice, cut once. Good one. Sweating copper pipe. Torch, lead-free solder, some soldering flux, and a steel wool brush. Clean it. So I hope Jim does a lab in sweating copper. It's really fun. If he doesn't, I might suggest we do it, because having a journeyman plumber here to sweat copper, it's pretty cool. It's kind of magical. Like you never seen a really good water filled pot. Bending, cover tubing, flare fitting, making compression joints. What time is it? Installing plastic PVC pipe. It's 12 to 9. Hey, you know this, I'm not telling you. Will not tell you, but I think I'm gonna stop right here. Because the syllabus says we stop at 9. We go to 9 o'clock. So we're going to, I'm just gonna say that